want to start this topic on a very practical standpoint, and then we shall get deeper and deeper as the video goes on. So stick around because it only gets better. So, common causes of depression in an age of comfort. What are these? Number one, the individual's needs are met with relative ease or little to no effort whatsoever. Think about that. And number two, there is no struggle for food, shelter, water, and basic physical security. So, if you think about this, it probably comes from the fact that we, as human beings, for so many years, had to physically struggle to earn our food. Our bodies learned to reward us for that. And that involves our brain and our psychology as well. So, having these needs met on autopilot and with no effort to acquire the food, whether that's physical or mental effort, means you have discarded these inbuilt rewards, right? And even if it's just something like preparing a meal from scratch by yourself or anything of the sort, the simple thing makes your mind reward you for a little bit more effort for that meal than getting it, than getting all your meals served or eating out every day. Does that make sense to you why you wouldn't get as rewarded as if you were putting effort into getting those meals? Psychologically, our brains reward us for effort. That's why working is fulfilling. Okay? So number three, there is no negative example of individuals or societies dying due to lack of food or shelter. I think this is because experiencing the fact that our situation could be worse off just by seeing another human being that doesn't have the privileges that we do, that is so significant. Seeing another human that is bearing, right, a life that looks less fortunate than ours puts us back in check, and it gives us gratitude and empathy. Lacking these definitely can contribute to depression. People in the modern world think that the good life is all about surrounding yourself with Bentleys and extravagant food and nice clothes and completely avoiding anything that isn't to our liking, anything that isn't impressive and perfect. But that is to push away another whole side of reality. A side of reality that we don't only need to recognize can be our own, but one that has a lot to teach us as well. People from first world countries visit third world countries and still go to stay in the busiest parts of the city, in the posh hotels. Like, what have you even experienced that is different when you do that? You need to go live amongst the locals, observe their culture, see how they live day to day. That might give you an experience radically different from the breakfast buffet and all the fancy room service. Lacking these definitely contributes to depression. Number four, the individual does not have the visceral sense of being under the collective security of a tribe or a village or something of the sort. This is about that feeling of community. And I believe it also stems from our ancestral origins, whereby we lived in closed communities and tribes. Everyone knew everyone, and the community worked together as a whole to ensure protection and safety and everyone's well-being. The purpose of understanding these is to figure out how we can integrate them into our current modern lives. Friendships are still very important, especially in physical form, despite all the social media and endless entertainment that we have at our disposal nowadays. Groups, book clubs, or groups where you can participate in a hobby that you are at all interested in. I believe all this goes a long way. And number five of the reasons why we are depressed in the modern world, the individual does not feel the sense of being needed by a tribe or a tribe substitute or by anybody. Yes, the sense that you are contributing to a society, and nowadays even to the species as a whole, can generate a great sense of meaning and purpose, which blows away depression like light pepper. Elon Musk isn't just trying to send rockets to Mars. He's trying to expand the reach of human territory and to make more resources available to man. That is very important, man. Despite living in a time where we have all this technology and materially things are arguably better than they have ever been before, more people than ever suffer depression and anxiety. An irrational sense of hopelessness seems to overcome many of us, to wash over many of us. I'll cover anxiety in another video, but what is depression? What causes it? Why does it feel like that? And does it have a solution? Or can we keep it at bay at all? We're going to tackle all this in this video, okay? I'm going to explain all this to you, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have the information you need to go be freaking happy. Almost half of us will experience depression at some point in our lives. But if the condition remains misunderstood, it will be poorly treated and mismanaged as well. At the core of our collective difficulty with depression is confusion about what it actually is. These are some notable similarities between those who are sad and those who are depressed. You see, both groups cry, both withdraw from the world, both complain of a sense of alienation from their normal lives. Both seem to have the same characteristics, but the main difference between a sad person and a depressed person is that a sad person knows what they are sad about. The depressed person does not. Sad people can, without much difficulty, tell us what it is that is troubling them. I am sad because my grandfather has died. I am sad because I was disappointed by a friend. And that is precisely what the depressed person is not capable of doing. They may be in a low mood for weeks and they can't conclusively put a finger on what has drained life of meaning for them. They simply say life has no meaning per se. They aren't depressed about A or B as one might be sad about specific things. They are first and foremost simply depressed. Depression tends to make us act in ways that lead to being even more depressed. So it is kind of a self-fulfilling cycle. These are called maladaptive patterns, which happen when one is depressed. They are recurring patterns of thinking, behaving, and relating to others that keep the person stuck in a depression loop. They engage in self-agonizing and self-loathing, which consequently makes them less social, and it also makes them more depressed as a result. The second crucial distinction as a way to define depression is that the sad person, the feeling is, like for the sad person, the feeling is something that happens to them. It is attached to an external event. But for the depressed person, the feeling becomes who they are. The sad person says, I am sad because something has happened, or I am sad because of something. They don't attach their identity to the whole thing. They are a person who is currently experiencing sadness, not a sad person at their core. For example, say a woman is heartbroken after a long-term relationship with someone, right? She feels immense pain, she cries frequently, and she withdraws from social activities. When a friend asks what is wrong, she can say, I am devastated because I thought I was the one for him. And now he is gone, and I am sad that our future together is over. Her sadness is tied directly to a specific loss, to a specific person and the future that they had planned. She is someone who is grieving a loss. She might think, I am a person who is going through a painful heartbreak. Or say a man, is passed over for a job promotion that he has worked hard towards for. He feels deflated, his confidence is shaken, and he feels disappointed. He articulates this as, I feel like all my hard work was for nothing. His sadness is focused on a specific event. It is focused on having not gotten the promotion. and he sees himself as someone who is suffering a setback. But the depressed person experiences their state as pervasive and without external cause, because there is no specific event to point to that is causing their feeling of depression. It becomes a baseline of existence. The feeling becomes the self. For example, a man's relationship ends and weeks later, he's still feeling deeply low. But when you ask them what the matter is, he hasn't processed the grief because he can't isolate it. The loss of meaning and the feeling of meaninglessness is what seems to confuse him and to consume him. He doesn't feel sad about the breakup. He feels that life has no meaning and that the breakup was just a symptom of that larger truth. He is the emptiness. He might think, I am broken, I am nothing, this is who I am now. Or on a similar sense, if a woman doesn't get a promotion and she says, I just feel worthless, it doesn't matter if I got a promotion or not, I would have failed at the job anyway. You know, I'm not sad about the job, I am a failure. That is where the feeling of worthlessness and deep depression comes from. A sad person has a narrative. They can tell the story of their pain. This happened and it hurt me because of this and this. The pain has boundaries and it is attached to an object, to a lost person or a lost opportunity. The depressed person has a feeling without a narrative. The pain is boundless and objectless. It is not about something that has happened in their life. It becomes their life. But what can we do about this? How can we in real life break this pattern? Well, there is a psychiatrist called Aaron Beck, and he founded something called CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy, right? And it is one of the best ways to tackle depression. It argues that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are interconnected. Depression is not caused by the situation itself. It is a perception. It is caused by the perception of that situation. Depressed people have a consistently negative view of, number one, themselves, I am worthless and inadequate. And number two, the world or their experience. The world is unfair and nothing ever goes right to me. That's how they look at it. And number three, the future. Things will never get better. I am doomed to feel this way forever. Something like that. The mechanism at play here is cognitive distortions and automatic thoughts, right? That is what causes a problem. These negative views are maintained by habitual thinking errors or cognitive distortions. These are irrational, biased ways of thinking that reinforce negative emotion. And common examples of this can include all or nothing thinking, right? Seeing things as black and white. I'm not perfect becomes I am a total failure. That is all or nothing thinking. And the second is overgeneralization. Seeing a single negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat, right? And then also focusing on the negative, picking out a single negative detail and dwelling on it exclusively so that your vision of reality basically becomes darkened. Getting many compliments on a presentation, but fixating on one person that looked bored. That is over-focusing on the negative. And then now is catastrophizing. Automatically imagining the worst case scenario. My boss wants to see me. Oh, I'm definitely getting fired. That kind of thing. Another one is personalization. Blaming yourself for events that aren't even your fault. That one is also another cognitive distortion. And I think that if you're following the pattern of how most depression arises, you'll realize that it stems from self-hatred, or at least a sense of it, like a severe but subtle sense of low self-esteem. I would attribute it to something that happened while most of us were growing up. Maybe a parent ignored us when we wanted their attention, or our first encounters in romantic love ended in catastrophic rejection or betrayal. Or it could be something as simple as peers making fun of us when we were babies in school. And we internalized these feelings, and in the future, when anything bad occurs, we think that we are to blame. I think that what most of it boils down to, and you wouldn't believe how many people all over the world basically have some form of trauma and were denied love in one way or the other. And these distortions create automatic thoughts. They pop up in your head and feel completely true, even though they are distorted. And therefore, the goal of therapy, therefore CBT, is to identify the person's automatic negative thoughts and challenge the evidence for and against these thoughts, to reframe them into more balanced, realistic perspectives and break the cycle. Method 2 is called interpersonal therapy, or IPT. The goal here is to help the client understand the connection between their mood and their life events. Then method 3 is the humanistic, or the person-centered perspective. And the approach is pioneered by Carl Rogers, where we see depression as a natural consequence of a person being cut off from their authentic self. These two can be a cause of depression, because the core idea here is incongruence. Humanistic psychology believes that every person has an innate drive towards growth and self-actualization. However, this process can be derailed, and conditions of worth can cause a problem. These are conditions we feel we must fulfill in order to receive love and positive regard from others. To gain approval, we start to suppress our true feelings and experiences and present a false self to the world, which creates a deep split and incongruence in our psyche. Depression, from this perspective, is an exhaustion and emptiness that comes from living a life that is not our own. It is a feeling of being lost, hollow, and disconnected from what you truly feel, need, and value. The relentless self-criticism seen in depression is the internalization of those external conditions of worth. The person has taken over the role of the critical parent, constantly judging themselves for not being good enough. And the goal of therapy, the goal is to create a safe and supportive environment where a client can reconnect with their authentic self. The depression lifts not because a symptom has been removed, but because the person has rediscovered their own path. The goal of therapy is to make the unconscious conscious. It is to integrate our unconscious into the conscious. The therapist's role is to be a relatively neutral interpreter of the unconscious. This is why most therapy sessions are made up of the client talking and the therapist listening. Therapy is trying to, in a simple way, turn your depression into sadness, such that we can rightfully mourn and accept the truth of our life without extremes of exaggeration or avoiding the situation. That is what therapy is mostly about. And if you got value out of this video, please give it a like and check the link down below to check out Growthplace Premium for better content. And also subscribe to the channel. Until next time.